Fire panels are real easy. They've got green and yellow lights on them. If there's a yellow light, there's something wrong. If there's a green light, it's good.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Talking Fire. We are going to be touching on maintenance. We did touch on maintenance and we are continuing to because we've had a lot of questions regarding maintenance. What are the requirements? What is the end user's requirement? What is the contractor's requirement? And who's responsible for what? So I am sitting here with Clive Ford, our chairman, who is going to take us through the requirements from all parties in more detail. Clive, over to you.
I've gone for my intelligent look. I've got glasses on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to refer to the standards. That's why I've got some assistance here. But basically, at the end of the day, when you get a fire detection system, you've bought the system. It's the same as buying a car. It's your system. It's not the installer's system. It's your system. You've paid for it. And therefore, you've got some responsibilities to look after it. The standard's quite specific. We're always referring to 10139 at the moment. We're not looking at any other standards. We will touch on them later on, but at this moment in time, we're looking at 10139 2021, which is the new standard. So you as an end user, your responsibility is to look at your system every day. You've bought the thing to protect your property, to protect your staff. Every morning, every afternoon, you need to look at it and see that there's no faults on the system, to see that the power is on. Fire panels are real easy. They've got green and yellow lights on them. If there's a yellow light, there's something wrong. If there's a green light, it's good. Once a week, the standard requires that you test the system. So that could be a case of activating the manual call point and making sure that the sound is sound. And just to make sure that, firstly of all, your staff know what they're expecting to hear in a fire condition. And secondly, to make sure that the system works. The next thing on from that is that you should have a service level agreement in place with a reputable company, the company that's got registered service technicians, that they know what they're doing, that they've got correct training on the panels, got correct training on the system. Off of that, the standard is now a little bit ambiguous, but people don't always understand. The standard says you should test your whole system in a year. Over a year period, test your whole system. However, you need to have a minimum of 2 visits from a service company. So the logical way of doing this is to service it once every 6 months, test half the system, you're covered for a year. Depending if the area where it's installed is really dirty, you go 3 months, you can go 2 months. It depends completely on your system and how much maintenance is required. The standard, and we're going to say the requirements on the documentation. Okay, so let's stay with the standards at the moment. Let's stay with the servicing requirements at the moment. Check it every day, check it once a week, test it, and then every 6 months minimum have a service company come and inspect it. There's certain documentation that they got to give you so that once you've done their service, that you know that has been serviced correctly, that you know that the detectors have been tested. Otherwise, you have no idea if it's working or not. Keep the stuff safe, because when your building burns down one day, the insurance company is going to say, did you service it? You've got to have proof that has been done. I think that covers most of that side of it, Hilton.
I think it's also just important to touch on the fact that when you inspect your fire panel in the morning, if there's a fault condition or if you've had a false alarm, these need to be recorded, and a constant fault condition should be referred back to the company that you use. It's very much like referring back to vehicles. Should your check engine light come on, you take it to the garage, you phone somebody. You don't just leave it and
wait for the engine to fall out.
Yeah, and wait for the next service. So the end users need to understand that the responsibility is on them to make sure their systems remain compliant as much as it is on the fire installer to install it. But they need to put service level agreements in place. And they need to understand that every application is different. So although the standard calls for 12 months or every biannual visit, more often than not, in some applications, you need to clean detectors on a monthly basis. More on the industrial side and that kind of thing. So,
and noting the faults on the system, there are limitations of the false alarms, so unwanted alarms that you can have on a system, and it's specified once again in the standard. You can have I would have to check, but I think it's like 2 or 3 detectors in a year period that can give you a false alarm. If it's more than that, your service company has to put checks and balances in place to make sure that you're not getting false alarms. Otherwise, people tend to ignore it.
Yes.
Part of your documentation that's required is next to the panel you should have a logbook, and that's where you note these things, and that's where you note that your service company has serviced the system and tested it.
And we've also obviously talking about evacuations and the specifically life safety systems. My personal opinion is due to the lack of resources of our emergency services in this country, that when being asked to assist with the design or getting advice on the design, I tend to go away from the P system because of the requirement of the EMS, and they do let us down. So we do look at L systems, and it's important for the staff and the people being protected that they understand what the fire evacuation is.
Yeah.
And obviously now with the inclusion of voice evac, that needs to be serviced along with the fire system. So it's generally done by one installer, but if it's done by two installers, they should work simultaneously, and the system should be tested to be functioning correctly at all times. Well, that would be my opinion, and that's I think that the standards indicate that is the way to go.
Well, looking back at the previous videos when Lauren was talking about the voice evacuation, people ignore sirens because there's so many sirens going off. So they need to be trained that when a siren goes off and it sounds like this, there's a problem, evacuate the building.
Specifically in public space, where you don't have the chance to run fire drills with the people that are occupying the area. So they need to be looked at differently. Shopping malls, hospitals, although hospitals fall under a different standard, but just areas where it needs to be evacuated by the public that haven't been trained on the evacuation drills. So it's also important that all that stuff gets put in place to, hopefully, prevent fires or detect fires early, prevent loss of lives.
Yeah.
And save assets. Protect, but business continuity.
Without
that's
that,
what it's about.
we have big problems. Yeah, we saw what happened down in Natal with the looting and the fires there. At least lives were saved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if there's any further questions, we are going to continue to touch on maintenance on a regular basis due to the importance of maintenance. But any specific questions from anybody, please contact the FDIA, send an email through to info@fdia.co.za, and continue to watch our YouTube or our LinkedIn and YouTube channels for more info as we try and share more knowledge.
So let me just have a quick look here. Documentation that's required. And this comes back to your supplier, your installer that's installed the system. He's got to have some documentation in place, the type of detection that's been installed, the standard that it's been installed to. So in 10139, you have several categories, as Hilton spoke about earlier, the L and the P. L being life safety, P being protection, property safety. You've got to have schematic drawings in place so that when the guys come to site and maintain, and God forbid there is a fire, that they can see where the devices have been installed, that they know what to look at. Let's see. The one big thing that always comes up is when your company services a system, this is not to say that they've now come and done a whole review of your system, all right? It says routine servicing of a system does not constitute a fresh review of the design, but is a verification of the functionality and serviceability of the existing system. So your service technician is coming in, he's testing the system, he's saying it's functional, he's not saying that the design is right. However, any non-compliances can be identified by the company, and I would say that if a company doesn't do it, then they're throwing money away. You want to know that your system is functional, and you want to know that yes, it's according to standard, or no, it's not. After that, it's then up to you as the client to make sure that you get the right people involved to get the system up to speed again. Let's see, what else do we say? Remote indicators should be checked. Also with the service, a cause and effect program needs to be done if it's an addressable system. If detector number 1 goes off, home the lifts. If detector number 2 goes off, make me a cup of coffee, that type of scenario. Service technician, and then otherwise most of the detectors should be tested according to the manufacturer's guidelines, especially when you start going with video smoke detection or aspirating systems. You need to have that information that is tested according to what the manufacturer has given. And I think that's about it on the maintenance side.
As I say, we'll continue to address
Harp
this
on
topic.
it, because that is most important. You can't install a system and not look after it because you don't know if it's working or not. It's sitting there quietly in the corner, and when it doesn't work one day, then you moan.
100%.